My name is Ian Chubb. I'm chairing an intergovernmental policy reform group for the jurisdictions of Australia, really, since they're all members of that particular group.
Mm-hmm.
And we're reforming the basis for health and medical research in the country, but with some emphasis at the moment on clinical trials.
Excellent. Okay, and you're here at ARCS, and that's obviously quite relevant to this particular audience here. You were up on a stage today.
Yeah.
All right, tell me a little bit about are you going through some of that, the regulatory change?
Well, yeah, because I was here about 2 years ago, and I promised to come back if the Commonwealth Government made a strong commitment to developing what we need to develop to do the work that we need to do. So I'm here.
Yeah. Okay.
At their request.
That's promising. So what is some of that work that needs to be done?
Well, I mean, Australia's a federation, right? Australia is a federation where the jurisdictions over years have developed particular processes and policy positions and IT platforms, all of this sort of stuff, as have institutions within those jurisdictions. So it gets particularly complicated if you want to do let's say, clinical trial across jurisdictions, across institutions, within a jurisdiction even, but certainly across. And so one of the ambitions of the governments, and when I say governments, I mean all ministers have agreed to this, so it's not just one government or Commonwealth government or any other single government. All ministers have agreed that we could make what is a good system much better if we do a sensible reform. And so they established the group that I chair, which is largely jurisdictional representatives and some of the agencies that are directly relevant. So the Therapeutic Goods Administration, for example, is there, all of that, and we're going to make a good system better.
Amazing. And is some of because obviously during COVID, the way we did clinical trials changed significantly, and there's been a bit of a run-off from that about some good bits that we'd like to be able to take and continue there. Is a lot of that coming through and driving some of that reform?
Well, one of the things that is characteristic, I suppose, of Australia by comparison now with where some of the rest of the world is moving is that it can take, not always, but can take quite a long time to get approval to do a trial. And when there is good reason for that, then we continue. At the end of the day, this is about giving patients better options for treatment, but safely, ethically, quality, all of those things are important drivers. So a lot of the rest of the world is moving to streamline their processes because clinical trials is a way to introduce into a country state-of-the-art treatment, which eventually could lead to state-of-the-art treatment options for people. Not all do, but at the end of the day, if we never take a risk, we won't ever get anywhere. So it's about offering treatment options for people after an appropriate process.
Yes.
And that's what we're involved in. And I would like to think that we could become a more attractive location for clinical trials, both domestically generated through small to medium enterprises or whatever, while some of the bigger companies and some of the big international companies would see that the advantages that Australia has are offered up in a accessible and streamlined way, so we've become more attractive. That's what other countries are trying to do. So if we don't change, we won't be.
Yeah.
And if we aren't, Australians lose out on the options for treatments here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a prime opportunity for us as a country to be not just followers but leaders in the space, and there's definitely the knowledge and expertise to do that within the country, and it's great to hear that those patient outcomes are front of mind. Just thinking from those small to medium enterprises or those stakeholders that would be involved in perhaps being impacted by changes in regulations, the way they do things that might be driven from a top-down. Are there things that organisations that might be here at ARCS might need to keep in mind or perhaps prepare for?
Well, I don't know them all individually. So what I do know is that when we're at a point now where a very significant consultation started off about a bit over 2 years ago, directly and indirectly, so directly face-to-face, well, online because it was COVID time,
yeah,
but and indirectly through surveys, we got the opinions of something to the order of 1,600 people. So a lot of the companies in this exhibition here would have been in contact with us at some point during that period. And there has been strong support from nearly everywhere, but certainly from the business end of the spectrum, because, they can be frustrated by getting multiple ethics approvals from multiple ethics committees, not an ethics approval. So it's the multiplicity, and I question whether some of that is redundant. If it is about conserving patient benefit and patient welfare and patient safety, it's not redundant. But if it's just about another form to fill out. So one guy told us about, in the consultation, there's something like 25 ethics committees or some number like that had approved his project, and the next one said no. And so that introduced a 6-month delay into the project. Now that's one. But when you sit with all these people, many of them in this room, and you hear how long it can take, and then you look at a federation like the European Union, which is, probably makes ours look like a walk in the park, really, and they've reduced the time from proposal to approval to a matter of weeks. And we are not doing that yet. So part of our role is to make sure that the regulations, the rules, are genuinely in need. So privacy legislation differs from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So you've got to have differences that accommodate the differences in privacy legislation. And that's a legitimate difference. Okay, there's a reason for that, and we won't get privacy legislation changed overnight, so we don't do that. But the reality is there'll be other things which are accreted over a long period of time and still be used because that's the way it gets done. Question is, are they legitimate? How do we approve sites for clinical trials? How do we make sure that the rules are consistent with safe, secure, ethical, but expeditious?
No, just a few moving parts there, but a strong direction, which sounds like the right one for sure. Lastly then, Ian, for those that perhaps saw your sessions here at ARCS or just generally attending, any key takeaways that you would hope they take away from the session or the conference?
Well, I hope that they take away the fact that we are confident that we will have the Commonwealth Government support, which part of what we were doing back then, 2 years ago, was on the understanding that the Commonwealth would support it. The Minister had made commitment, but, sooner or later the rubber's got to get on the road. So I hope they go away confident that we've got in hand the development of a substantial piece of work, and with a lot of moving parts, as you said, but a substantial piece of work that will make a good system a lot better.